Okay. Rolling sound. Rolling video. I've always tried to incorporate the phrase 2 more miles into a lot of my work. 2 More Miles was the inspiration for my journal, a play. Whenever people ask me how much further, I always just say 2 more miles. The short that this footage is from. All covered. You can see you everywhere there. It was something I first heard when I was 11 on my first Boy Scouting trip. Eager and excited, I overpacked. With all this weight, I was unable to balance. And 20 feet from the parking lot, I fell and broke my nose. A later reoccurring theme. Not that time. I didn't break it that time. That's a makeup test for this film, technically. After breaking my nose, I continued the hike. Between wheezes, I'd ask anyone in earshot, how much further?
Farther.
They would all answer the same way.
2 more
2 more
miles.
miles.
Said that 2 miles ago.
I found out later that was just a clever way to say, we'll get there when we get there. It's comforting. As I got older, I adopted it as my motto. It has always reminded me that it gets better. There's only 2 more miles. Each time that I've tried to tell this story, the meaning gets lost or it's not represented properly. In an effort to not do that again, to start this, I'm going to present you with another story, beside the 2 more miles one. One of the stories that my fiction is based off of, something that shaped me and those closest to me.
Okay, so I have for your video, for like if you want to have a conversation. Like,
Yes,
what do you
I need to hold on. Let me just give me a moment. I'm just trying to. For some reason, Premiere just. This is Ricky. He's been my friend forever. Probably my oldest friend in the book. We've been through a lot together. Yeah, and also I was hoping to talk about like the impact of like, I don't know, for me when I heard that he had died, the reaction I had was that of like a realization of mortality, like kids don't die.
Yeah. You want to talk about that stuff? I can. I'm pretty affected by that, I would say, like, definitely, in a lot of ways, and, like, how I view life right now, definitely impacted by that. So when I was, like, little, I had, like, extreme phobias of, like, dying, and I kind of, like, that hit me at a really young age. My mom's uncle died in 9/11.
Yeah, I remember.
So I was 6 years old. So like that was my first real like introduction to like death. So I even remember like I used to steal his hats and shit like that. But I also he made like this Jacob's ladder. And these like the little toys that they like fall. Do you know what that is? Like Jacob's ladder?
Totally.
Toy.
Yeah, they
so, like,
fall on top of each other.
So I had it in school, like in first grade, and it broke. And I had this like intense memory of me just like completely breaking down in the middle of this class because of it. And I couldn't even communicate what was going on. And so like made this whole scene, and it was god awful. I think I had substitutes that day, and it was just like, and like from like kind of like that intense emotion at a young age. I like kind of like seen death and shit like that. I can go through a couple of things about like mortality and whatever, and then we could talk about this. But like that was pretty impactful. I was pretty like introduced to it, but like the fact of seeing a dead kid really like fuck. over it.
Yeah.
And all the intensities around that whole camping thing experience. Boy Scout camp was like pretty raw.
Yeah.
I'm not the best at expressing my emotions.
He really isn't. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. I would say like I'm 16, and yeah, Mike's only a couple months younger than me. So I wanted to have like a good summer where I could just hang out and have a good time and whatnot, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we were planning the tents, we were figuring out what kids we wanted. So I was like I was in control of like 11-year-old kids, right? I'm 16, I'm like in charge of these kids. And like they were whining and bitching and they're like homesick and shit, and I had to deal with all that. So me and Mike exchanged kids because I thought I wanted this kid because I thought he'd be more fun, and I didn't really know the other kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I switched tents with Mike on it with him, and then so he came up a day late. So me and Mike actually met up with him and took him back, and we talked to his parents, and like his mom was literally like worried about him, and she says to us like, "Oh, I'm just like nervous. It's like his first time ever like away from home, and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Oh, he's gonna have a great time. He's gonna have a super fun week." And I was like telling her like about like my time, the first time I went to Yaga, right, and how much like a good time I've had. Since he died, like this whole like interaction is like very like in my mind, memory, because I remember her like saying goodbye and the kiss and everything, and like so like that all stuck with me. So the night before, it was like Tuesday night, me and Mike went up to this like old, there's like this cabin full of like these old guys, like the adults at night. It was like their cabin. They had like, coffee, and they had like venison, nacho dip, and shit like that. And it's not meant for like kids to be. But like we were totally welcomed, we were totally chilling, and we were gonna go smoke. I didn't smoke the day before because of my like, the headache, right, blah, blah. So like we were gonna go do this, and we ended up not even doing it at all. We just had a good time hanging out with these adults for like 4 hours. And we got back at like super late. And the kid I switched Mike with, the kid who died, the one I switched with, had a complete other fucking panic attack, right? And was like freaking the fuck out, being homesick. And I had to deal with him like whole freak out super late at night, and I was like talking to him outside and I was helping him out. So that all happened, and in the morning it came back to like that we found out this was gonna happen, right? Whatever happens, I'm not 100% sure who said what, but basically I get thrown into this whole thing. The adult leader's son gets accused of doing this thing, but they believe him that he didn't smoke. And I'm like evidently like pleading my innocence. I wanted them to drug test me and shit because come out probably clean. And yeah, basically they had to drive us home at night, and then 2 days later this kid died at the camp.
Yeah.
Had a brain aneurysm. The kid who died was in Mike's tent, so Mike also got sent home, right? So they put like a little kid, like I don't know, 13-year-old in charge of these 11-year-old kid's tent. The kid doesn't wake up in the morning. They're like smacking him around to see if he's like awake, right? And they're like, "Oh, wake up, right?" Because like they're being obnoxious because they're kids, right? So they're trying to get him out. So they pull his bunk out with him on it, and then they see that he's fucking blue and dead, right? His face is down. Someone told me all this whole story. The adult leader's son started doing CPR on him, and like this is in front of like everybody. Like all this 11-year kid's friends are like standing around watching this happen, and they're like, it's a mess of a scene. Kids are screaming and crying, and it's an emotional scene. So they had to get like helicopters, come into the area and like airlift him out.
Oh man, this would actually be perfect for the ending scene, because they take down his tent and there's a fire in the middle between them, and they set up like site around here, so I could have one tent set up over here and the other tent set up over here with the fire smoldering in the middle. And then like they wake up, the two older boys come over to the younger kid's tent, and they like, as a joke, they deconstruct it, and it falls, and they're like, "Get up!" And he doesn't wake up, and they're like, "Get up!" And he doesn't get up, and then they're like, yeah, and they're like, "Holy shit!" And that's the end of the movie. So I'm trying to find a good place for the end of the movie. It makes sense he's dead. He has a concussion.
Oh, fuck, yeah, that'll do it. Even a minor concussion for like
Yeah, he's supposed to be 14, and he falls and he breaks his nose, and like the rest of the movie he's like stumbling around and kind of out of it, but they like dismiss the idea of a concussion almost immediately. Like they're like, "Does he have a concussion?" And he's like, no, he's fine. And then they just keep having the kid walk around, and he cuts a cut on his leg and they sew it up.
After he dies, you gotta be like a narrator's gonna be like.
Why does there have to be a narrator?
You
Voiceover is like the death of film.
You gotta. No one's gonna think that he died.
What do you mean? If they dismiss it and it's very clear that he's like over his head and like you won't be able to come to any other conclusion. When he's dead, you're like, holy shit, he's dead. What may have done it? And you're like, oh, probably him breaking his face open.
How's your head?
Oh, it hurts.
Might have a concussion.
He's talking.
Yeah, I could deal with that.
Do you know what I mean? Like if you see him break his face and the rest of the movie he's got a black eye and a broken nose.
It
And then
sounds like a violent movie.
it's not that violent.
It's not that violent. I like the key word there. Let's look at it.
Well, nobody hurts anybody. It's just like